The Ninja Turtles actually originated in the Eastman and Laird comics as very hardcore vigilantes. And so I thought the opportunity here that I hadn't really seen in the past films was to make them even more badass than I'd seen them before.
Dude.
In reinventing the Turtles this time, if we made them a little larger than life, a little darker in their design, they could be fun and badass at the same time.
Allow me to be the badass for once.
And so that was sort of the inspiration going forward. And it just felt different in a good way and felt like a worthy addition to the canon.
Come on!
You know, I grew up with Ninja Turtles, and what's so great is with today's technology, we've been able to update the Turtles and give them a scope that they've never had before.
We all sat down and thought about how important it was for this movie to be a character movie and how important the performances were. So for about 6-7 months, took every one of the scenes and thought about, you know, how to actually make it possible on the set. I think previs in the sequence is really, really important for the kind of visual effects movie that we're making.
A lot of times you have to previs a scene so you know exactly what to shoot and you don't waste a lot of time on set.
Some of the previs has been going on for years, just planning and coming up with shot designs and stuff like that. So it's a pretty integral part, and it's also very helpful.
I think Jonathan is really good about taking a look at those scenes and placing cameras where he needs to and experimenting a little bit. Some of the things do change right there and they become funnier or more emotional. And so you want to be able to, even though you're going by a previs, to be able to be flexible enough to change something.
Poor Leo, April, and that other guy.
We thought with the amazing stuff Michael did with the robots and Transformers, we could do the same and bring the Turtles into a CG world where they can do anything. We don't have to have guys running around in suits that are limited.
I think the way to sell visual effects as much as possible is to have as much reality in the frame as you can have. And it was important to us to always have actors in the frame who were the Ninja Turtles, as well as stunt people doing the martial arts so that the animators were matching something real as opposed to something imaginary in their head.
I think the most challenging thing is getting those performances, you know, the turtle performances, to read really well and to tell the story that they need to tell.
The technology was very new to us. The idea of motion capturing all of the actors and then turning them into CG turtles later.
Motion capture is a process by which you take an actor's performance and translate it into a computer so that the computer can take that actual performance and put it onto any character or creature that the computer has created.
Whoa, chill. It's just a mask. See? Don't freak out. Right?
We're really acting these parts out. We're shooting a scene like we're shooting a movie, and then they're using this unbelievable technology to transfer what we've done and turn it into a turtle.
See, she's looking at us like we're freaks.
Don't be afraid. All will be made clear.
We did a lot of research. We're working with ILM, who does all the robots on the Transformers movies, and it worked out perfectly. We take our guys, we put them in the motion capture suits, put the cameras on their heads, and Megan, plays April O'Neil, is able to act with the guys playing the turtles.
It's so nice to have a living, breathing human being there that will improv, that will switch things up, that will mess up, because you find really great things in those moments. And that brings life to something that, you know, wouldn't be possible if I was just interacting with a giant pole and a tennis ball.
Come with me. I got a safe place for you to hide, and if you get thirsty, I got a secret stash of Orange Crush behind the fridge. Don't tell Raph.
I'm really glad that we get to work with them in their suits, not just tennis balls on the end of sticks, because we do actually get to work with other actors, and the guys can ride their skateboards and do these tricks and have these fight scenes. It's pretty amazing.
You're a talking turtle.
Yeah, I'm a talking turtle. And you're a human nerd. Now that we got that out of the way, hit it.
I think it worked better for everybody. They were all able to work with each other, and everyone is communicating with each other in the scenes, in the shots. You have someone to play off of. It's not someone reading dialogue off camera. April is literally looking at Leonardo, and he's talking back to her, even though he's not a 6'5", huge giant turtle yet, but he will be.
Then for the animators, I think it's good because you have a very scientific reference of what the actor is performing to and what kind of choices he's making.
Having a performance that's given by somebody in the moment on set gives you unified facial motions, body motions, voice. Everything all comes together cohesively and also allows for that sort of impromptu dialogue changes, whatever, just those nuanced expressions that can come through that are just very natural.
Bam! System disabled. Who wants Italian? I'm buying. Tiramisu for everybody.
What the stunt performers and actors had to wear were these motion tracking suits, which have many different markers and patterns for animators to track their movements with. And on their faces, we used a brand new technology that used 2 HD cameras to track every single muscle movement on the face, including their tongue, their eyes, their teeth, things that had never been tracked before, so we could get an extra level of reality when we translated their performance into the computer graphics world.
People keep telling me I have dots on my face, and I don't know what they're talking about.
Action.
We were trying to make the characters as real as possible. And that's the reason why we went with facial performance that was so high resolution and so scientific.
So the dots in the face are part of the technology in the motion capture, and they work in conjunction with the helmet mounts that we wear.
Jawline of a god.
So all the movements, these dots allow animators to grab, to track, and create them in ways that are uniquely yours. And that's what goes into this amazing technology and this amazing reiteration of these characters.
In our case, 2 HD cameras capture what somebody's doing with their face. And by placing, 180 tracking markers on somebody's face, the 2 video HD cameras capture that information, and then that gets put into a digital version of the actor.
We have developed a number of new technologies directly for this film. The facial capture has been done before, but what we've done is we've taken it to the next level. It's a fairly complicated process with having to capture that performance targeted onto a digital representation of that actor, then retarget it onto the turtle from there.
Well, miss, we're ninjas.
We're mutants.
Well, technically we're turtles.
Oh, and we're teenagers, but we can still have adult conversations.
You get the essence of wonder in this, and it's not through the dialogue necessarily that you're sensing that, but it's, how the eyes react, it's the subtle movements of the mouth.
So when the actor blinks, you want the turtle to blink. When the actor, shakes his head and smiles, you want the turtle to do the same thing.
I'm going out on my own. First chance I get.
Oh, we gotta finish our hip-hop Christmas album, bro. You're the hype man. Yo, shut up.
The reason for having the cameras so close to their face is that you want to capture as much of the actor's face as possible. So you want to see the actor's face in view at all times.
Kind of dawned on us from the beginning that these 4 characters were going to carry the movie together with the actors. It was really important that we got the performances that we needed.
We'll find you, O'Neill. I'm sorry, that came across super creepy, okay? We will find you, though.
It's cutting edge to take the characters in the mocap suits and put them in a real environment. But I didn't want it to feel like something that we could have made 5 years ago. So what we did is we did take the characters out into real locations and have real lighting real sunlight on them, and the guys who played the turtles, they created those characters.
Being a turtle really came to life for us when we got to set, and then they handed us our shells to put on. When you put that shell on and you just feel that weight behind you and kind of the way it manipulates the way you walk, the way you move, it shapes and informs everything that you do.
Everything has a purpose. You're like, why are there triangles in the fabric on my arm? Like, why is it this texture and why are there dots on my face? To know what everything does and how they're going to utilize that to be able to create this technology and imagery, it's cool.
Really exciting that the technology exists now to take them out of the rubber suits and make them real turtles.
There was a few different processes involved. One of them when we're shooting, interacting with Megan and Will on the actual physical sets, and then there was another part that we had done at ILM.
ILM has a very sophisticated technology and room and suit that the actor wears, and the computer can actually read every single movement that the actor is making. And once it can read all those movements, it can almost cut and paste that performance and put it onto a Ninja Turtle.
There are actual balls on our suits, and we're able to run around basically a white blank stage that has over 130 some cameras pinpointed all around the room, and that's taking every movement that we do in that physical space and mapping it so that they can recreate us in any environment that they want to.
MC Mikey. MC Ray.
We knew that the martial arts were going to be a challenge, and so what we did was we got, a real fight choreographer to come on set and choreograph real fights with stunt guys. And the challenge for us in animation was taking that, and because the turtles were bigger and more powerful and stronger, we would take the stuff that was shot and we would, exaggerate their jumps or exaggerate their punches, make their spins go twice as fast, or maybe make their kicks be twice as big, just so they had more impact and they felt more like superheroes.
When you put the fights together, you also take into consideration the weaknesses and strengths of those characters. So if the turtles need to be able to use their weapons in a ninja way, and they're very peculiar about their ways of using their weapons.
Let's rock and roll, boys.
There are 4 different characters. Every one of them likes a specific thing, that everybody fights or acts or behaves in a specific way.
When we designed the turtles for the movie, just thinking about trying to make them look real, we kind of externalized their personalities into their physical appearance. So we tried to make their shape and their size, different, so that when you see them in silhouette, you can identify each turtle.
That blows me away because I look at those shots and it feels real.
We're doing these sort of exotic creatures that have to have their own look and feel, which we get a lot of it through motion capture, but it's also a lot of hand artistry from all different disciplines to make it look right. We start with the skin of the creature, which is like a clay model in a way, and you want to be able to move it and make sure the skin looks good, that the muscles flex right, that the costumes follow the performance. Where there's wind or a breeze blowing through, we have to make sure that, especially with the turtles, the tails of their masks blow in the breeze. And it's just adding those kind of details to help the primary animation or the motion capture performance look real.
I think one of the things that grabbed me early on was seeing the concept art of the turtles and just kind of picturing them in their environment, and realizing, okay, they're gonna be down in the sewers. They're gonna be in some cool situations.
Johnny! Better up!
I think one of the challenges with characters like these is that they're based on cartoons. And so the challenge there is when you're making a realistic movie that's going to be live action, you have to figure out how to make these characters realistic and photoreal. So you have to figure out how to make them kind of fit in our world. They were going to have to perform very subtle, nuanced performances, and they were also going to have to be able to do, you know, big, broad action scenes. So we just had to add a lot of details and a lot of realism to their faces and to their bodies, to the texture. You know, we had to add nostrils so they could breathe, and they needed lips so that they could speak.
I ain't going back to the Hashi.
Every time we're in the Hashi, it's because of you.
Well, bro, you don't have to worry about me dragging you down anymore.
So I think the idea is to separate these characters into 4 completely definable beings, and I think they did.
You had a lot to gain from telling people about us, but you had our backs.
So that's what family's for, Raph.
The turtles look very cool. All 4 of us just had the same reaction. We were like, those look better than anything we could have imagined them looking like. That's exactly what you want.
It's truly the frontier of movie making, this technology. So it's been great to be part of it and to experiment with it. I mean, down to opening the mouth, raising an eyebrow, sticking out your tongue. It's all gonna register.
I think the biggest thing that's going to wow the audience is going to be the fact that the turtles look so photorealistic that they're going to think that it's somebody in costume or suits, and they're going to think, wow, the makeup was really well done.
Sweet.
And I just can't stop looking at them and just thinking, how did we do this?
At the end of the day, we hope that the fans from every generation are able to look at this movie and feel that we gave them what they wanted and something more.
It was all about story and characters while we were working with the technology and the design of the turtles and how we were going to update this movie. Because we wanted the turtles to have a fresh look. You know, we wanted them to feel different. This was a new movie. You know, we wanted this to be its own.
To bring one character to life in this film takes an entire team of people. You have the actor performing, you have the stuntman who performs the martial arts part of the performance, you have the artists who are going to translate the performance into the computer graphics world, you have the animators, the renderers, the compositors. It's an entire team of people just to bring one performance to life. It's incredible.
No matter the risk, you live, you fight as brothers.
Let's rock and roll, boys.
.3D was always in my mind on this film.
The techniques that we're using, improvements in software, rendering, makes a big difference. It gives us a lot of believability.
I think it has evolved in a cultural way. I think people demand that there is some real smart use of that 3D space.
I've always wanted to try this!
3D is a technique by which we separate the images that we generate into a left and a right eye, and we project them in specific ways so that we get the sense that we are in a real 3D space. So it's not flat anymore. There are 3 dimensions.
Dude.
There are a number of shots that are going to be all 3D, so when you're shooting, you have to factor in those type of considerations as to how things are going to be coming at the lens. If you want a sense of dizzying the audience or really making them focus on one thing.
Have you seen that video where the cat plays chopsticks?
Can we focus here?
You can go as crazy as you want.
So it's really important that when you're going to do a movie that is going to be projected in 3D, that you think about those things when you design the shots.
I meant to do that. I meant to do it.
and you always kind of make sure that there is a foreground and midground and background so the things kind of move against each other.
Always what we try to do on this movie was frame a little wider, hold the shots longer, because when you don't let your characters break frame, you can bring them into negative space, especially when Shredder is fighting the turtles at the end on the rooftop. We have these long shots where you really get a chance to become immersed in the 3D.
Also, there's a lot of opportunity in our movie to do some 3D tricks.
There's a shot where Donatello's bow staff goes spinning up towards camera, and actually we shrunk the mats of the shot so that the bow staff exits the shot.
We try and be very, very conscious of where we place things, particularly when things are getting near the screen. Anything that could be potentially poking out at the audience, you want to play that up. You don't want to break the bottom of the frame. You want to keep it right in frame so that it feels like, people can reach out and touch it. There's a moment with Splinter where he's taunting Michelangelo with some pizza, and we're very conscious about where we position that pizza so that it feels like the audience is actually going to be able to get a bite too.
To me, it's part of the humor, in a way, of the Ninja Turtles, an extension of that.
And the same thing with action. We have moving shots, cameras coming around spaces, the invasion of the lair, how the foot come in and then they have these tranquilizing darts and they explode. You want to have a 3D moment there because you want to, kind of contaminate the audience with it. But also when you have an acting moment in which Raph, is looking at Splinter and his eyes swell, and you're really close to him, you want to also feel in 3D that he's right next to you and there is something behind him. It's a real storytelling tool.
Let's go save my brothers.
I love the spectacle of 3D. You really get a chance to become immersed in the film.
Cowabunga.
My sons, your training is not yet complete, but you will be the warriors that legends are made of.
I meant to do that.
My initial exposure to the Turtles, I was probably, 5 or 6.
I was absolutely a fan of the Turtles growing up.
I was a huge Turtle fan.
I was a huge Mikey fan. He was my favorite turtle.
Whoa, it's just a mask. See? Don't freak out.
I have lots of childhood photos of a very small me running around with Ninja Turtle shirts on and sweaters, and I think I had a turtle hat.
I got all the toys. I started watching the cartoon.
Started with like the turtle underwear, and had the action figures and like the little van that shot pizzas.
I wore ironically, a purple bandana.
I'm one of 5 kids, and I have 3 brothers, so between the 4 of us, the roles kind of came naturally.
And I had a broomstick that I took out of the broom, and I wrapped it in rope, and I would run around pretending I was a ninja.
I still remember the first day I walked into Platinum Dunes, and we were still just trying to understand what this thing was going to be, and they go, so, okay, we want to show you something. And they take us back in this room, and there are just these 4 2-foot-tall statues on the desk in there, and they were the characters as they're going to look on film. I mean, there's just so much personality in what they put together, and it kind of blew everybody away.
Check it out. Silent footage shows
You're going to be playing Donatello, and my immediate reaction was, there's got to be some mistake. I'm just a guy that was raised in the valley, a chinless wonder. All of a sudden, I'm playing this amazing character that I grew up with. It was awesome.
They did a really great job of casting all the different guys playing the turtles, not unlike the turtle characters themselves.
There wasn't a lot of reaching as an actor to find where these characters are inside of us.
All of us approached this project from a new standpoint. What can we bring that's new to this? Keep all of that rich history from the characters that people love and know, and then find a new path for them, find a new way to tell the story of these guys.
At its heart, it's the story of family. It's these 4 brothers and their father trying to figure out their world.
You're Ninja
mutant, turtle, teenagers.
Well, when you put it like that, it sounds ridiculous.
I think shooting in New York for a Ninja Turtles movie it's just a necessity. The whole history of it is in New York.
None of us are from New York City, so we were literally wide-eyed walking around New York City and learning the streets together, learning the culture and eating a lot of pizza. That's not a joke. Not too proud of that.
3 days ago, New Yorkers would have said, we should do that again, right? Let's do it again.
We were filming in Times Square at one of the busiest intersections, and people were passing right. You can't stop it. So they're in your shot, they're in your frame, they're passing, and you know how it is in New York. People would walk past and be really angry that we were in their way. We're in the middle of the scene acting, and I'm like, but what do I do with size, Raphael? And then someone would come by and be like, get the out of the way.
New Yorkers generally don't care if you're walking past them in a motion capture suit and a shell on your back.
People gotta work.
You might get like a few people who would do like double takes and then be kind of like, yeah, okay.
Like we're making a movie right now. You're in it. Go see yourself in August.
That was really fun to experience and really fun to kind of get to play around in the streets of New York as a Ninja Turtle.
Where are we?
Yeah, it's our Fortress of Solitude. Our Hogwarts. Our Xavier Academy. Our next generation state-of-the-art Wonder Dome.
Oh, are we in the sewer?
No.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, it's a sewer.
The lair is the iconic set for the Ninja Turtles. Where do the Turtles live? How do we, in 2014, show their home to the world?
They built the entire lair, and it was amazing.
The level of detail, it blows my mind. I mean, there are days we walk in and we're like, holy cow, these guys are good. Like, you know, there's like more graffiti on the wall, and it's aged, and it's like more lived in, and we have like more trinkets and toys and stuff.
You know, there's furniture made out of pizza boxes, and it was just a really brilliant set design.
The boombox wall was like the coolest idea, and I thought, as an idea, that's gonna be amazing. I wonder how it's gonna translate to film. It was better translating it to film than it was in the idea.
It's got a dojo so they can train, it's got a game room so they can play, it's got bedrooms so they can sleep. It's the best set I've ever been on.
It was really fun to be there, and it brought that to life. None of that was CG. I mean, that was all really there.
I think it happened over the course of the shoot that those four guys became like the characters that they played. I mean, I don't know that they came to set that way, but they certainly left. They're a unit. I mean, we look at them as a unit now.
You might as well not have arms. You literally might as well not have arms.
As time went on and Jonathan let us play more and more, we realized that we were like these characters more than we ever thought, which is a good and bad thing maybe, but it really lended itself to bringing these guys to life.
Probably my favorite part of shooting the movie was working with my fellow Turtle brothers.
The chemistry between the four guys was really amazing.
We have this really wonderful camaraderie, and it was instantaneous.
Like instantly clicked, you know, and we're all different. Somehow it works just like, it's like we're brothers, you know, there's just an instant kind of kinship.
It's so much fun.
A really fun ride.
That's like the heart of the movie. You have to have that brotherly kind of connection and that love that was really naturally occurring for the four guys.
No egos involved. Everybody's here just to bring to life these characters as best they can, and it's been a lot of fun.
All you needed was to discover that your true power lies in believing in one another.
Turtles are this surprisingly long-lived group. They've been around for an incredibly long time. The first Turtles date back to about 220 million years ago, which probably just sounds like a number. But if you think about the age of the dinosaurs, the first dinosaurs are about 230 million years ago. So turtles have been around for this incredibly long period of time. And the first turtle that we know of at this point is called Odontocheles. And Odontocheles looked a lot like a turtle, but it didn't yet have a complete shell, and it still had teeth. These early turtles also didn't yet have the ability to retract the neck fully into the head. And so oftentimes what you'll see on some of these earlier turtles is they have a very spiky neck, and also a fairly long neck. And presumably that's because those spikes were to protect the neck. Those were defensive structures. And it wasn't until later that you start to see this really unique ability to either completely retract the head and the neck into the body, or in many turtles also, as opposed to pulling the head straight back, they'll actually turn the head sideways and then pull it into their shell that way. Jump forward 10 million years, and you get a couple of different fossil species that now have a complete shell, and they've lost the teeth, so they now have what we call a beak, which is what all modern turtles have. So by 210 million years ago, you've basically got animals that look a whole heck of a lot like turtles do today. I mean, turtles sort of found this incredibly successful body plan. And there's certainly been lots of evolution in that 220 million year time period. Some of the earliest turtles clearly had sort of a shell and armor to some extent to basically act as sort of defensive structures to help protect them.
Ha! Are you guys okay?
We're bulletproof.
Sweet. One of the earliest turtles actually had extensions of the shell that actually did a better job of protecting the limbs. But you also saw some really amazing structures, and some of these structures were really quite common throughout that 220 million year evolutionary history of turtles, including things like spikes on the head and spikes on the tail, including even clubbed tails. And so presumably these were defensive structures, but suddenly these turtles are starting to take on an appearance that's much more like Ankylosaurus, which is this well-known dinosaur with this massive clubbed tail.
That's harsh, man.
That overall morphology is something that has just been incredibly successful and has allowed turtles to do quite well. And of course, they've adapted to a variety of different habitats. You get tortoises on land, you get sea turtles, and you get freshwater turtles. And so they're able to exploit, a large number of environments, which is in part why we see them across much of the globe. One of the most amazing ones is right here in North America. So the single largest turtle that we know of is a turtle found in the fossil record of Wyoming and South Dakota. It's a species called Archelon. And that was a marine species, and it lived in this huge, shallow sea that covered much of North America at the time. So you're finding these fossils really, all over the place.
This is insane.
While the turtle species developed over time with proof in the form of fossils, these remains were uncovered on a global scale, from North America all the way to the Far East, home of the ninja.
The ninja were actually called the shinobi. Shinobi actually means to steal away or shadow warriors. These were types of people that would be hired by different areas, either different samurai or different villages and so on, to do espionage work, to do arsonists, to spy and all that. So these people had to be stealth. They had to be in the shadow. They had to be unaware and get into the situation, do their job, and get out. So that's what the ninja was all about.
Like shadows in the night, completely unseen.
How was that? It's a camera flash.
They were very inventive people. They had to invent unique styles of weaponry that couldn't be shown all over the place. They had to hide it all in their pockets in different areas. They had to sneak in and use whatever means they had to do to get in, find that information, start that fire, or even assassinate an individual. So the ninja were considered one of the most unique and one of the most inventive styles of martial arts.
As the 12th century to the 15th century went by, the folklore of the ninja became more and more prevalent.
All of a sudden, instead of just men, they were like ghosts that would appear out of the shadow. Later, during about the 15th century, things kind of changed. There weren't that many wars. The Tokugawa period came in. The samurai will kind of be removed. So the ninjutsu, the ninjas, which were called the shinobis, still wanted to survive. They still were needed. But what they had to do is change the whole outlook for how everybody looked at them. So instead of saying, oh, that's an assassin walking by, they had to change the name from shinobi to ninja. And from ninja, they made it more of a martial art. So now people were learning it more of a martial arts style. So now they were creating different sets of how you'd structure things, how you climbed walls, how you use ropes, how you do different things. And now is it more acceptable as a martial art form. And people looked at the ninja with awness rather than, ooh, they're just assassins.
While the legend of the ninja grew, the secret clan had to continue to adapt and evolve as decades passed. much like the turtle over centuries.
Longevity in turtles varies across species, and the sad reality is that we actually don't have a very good idea of how long turtles can actually live to. The oldest known turtle is a turtle that was actually collected by Captain James Cook and presented to the royal family of Tonga, and they kept it for 189 years before it passed away of natural causes. But when you think about an animal that might be living for upwards of 200 years, how many cases are where you can actually document that history from start to finish? So the reality is that it's quite likely that there are species of tortoise in particular that are capable of living more than 2 centuries, and we just haven't been able to document that yet. But in general, most of the turtles that we think about, things like common freshwater turtles and box turtles, are probably somewhere on the order of sort of 30 to 70 years. It's probably pretty common for most species, and it's really some of these tortoises that are getting up to sort of the 200-year mark. There's a lineage of turtles called the Meolonids. These were present until about 2,500 years ago. The last remaining Meolonid populations were on the island of Vanuatu, where they were believed to have been hunted to extinction by the early people that arrived to Vanuatu. And those turtles had these amazing horns that projected back off of their heads, as well as some very spiky horns on the tail. So some really, impressive and very different looking animals overall than what we sort of currently think about when we think of turtles.
While the turtle changed appearance over time due to environmental fluctuations, the ninja attire also went through some different phases.
The goal of the ninja is to be secretive. They had to get in and get out very quickly. They learned to climb walls. They wore dark outfits, and mostly they covered most of their face so people wouldn't see. They'd have certain ways of running so their arms wouldn't flail in the wind. Okay, so they had to keep everything very close and very tight. Same thing as their weapons. So everything had to be very secretive. The last thing you want is advertise you're a ninja. Many people said the ninja outfit came from the Bunraku theater. The Bunraku theater is the puppetry for Japan. These were puppets that were used to talk about different plays and different things, and there would be a handler behind each puppet. And each one would hold the arm and move the arm movements for the different plays. But they would be in an all-black outfit, and if you look very closely at the handlers of the puppet, they looked exactly like the ninja. So many people said that's where the ninja got their outfits from watching the Bunraku theater.
While the intention of the ninja uniform was to camouflage and conceal, the turtle shell's primary function was protection.
Turtle shells are this absolutely amazing structure that's this combination of dermal bone with existing bone, so the ribs and the backbone. And then on top of that layer of bone are these scutes. And the scutes are mostly made up of keratin, so the same stuff that is in our fingernails. And that provides this very protective, almost armor-like shell for these turtles. Turtles, of course, are vertebrates. And like all other vertebrates, turtles have a backbone. They have a vertebral column, and that vertebral column is fully integrated with the shell, with what we call the carapace, which is the top part of the shell. And so as you move along the neck of a turtle, you move down through the cervical vertebra, eventually you get to vertebrae that are actually fused with the shell. And so the vertebra and the ribs are forming part of the skeletal structure that is the shell. And so there's no way that a turtle can leave its shell, because the shell is completely integrated with the entire body of that organism.
While the turtle shell serves a defensive purpose in most cases, the ninja were also developing defensive skills, changing and adapting their physical appearance to remain in secret.
One of the most unique aspects of the ninja is being able to camouflage himself. Now, most people see the Hollywood ninja in the different black outfits, and that is quite true in some cases, but they had to dress to get into different situations. For example, sometimes they dress as a geisha to get into the gate and to get into the fort, or a woodworker or a priest. Now, for the ninja, unlike the samurai, the weapons they used were part of their tools. So if they had to climb a wall, they would use the sword as their ladder. They would hide their weapons in different places so they can throw them out very quickly. They use poison, they use different types of things, whatever they needed to do, make it small and compact or whatever they wore, and get into the situation. Sometimes they'd hide in the water, with a little reed on top to hide underneath, or sometimes they'd hide in the ground. So whatever they needed to do their job and get paid, that's what they would do.
While the ninja developed many impressive skills, the impervious turtle also has many astounding traits.
Because you see turtles in a wide variety of habitats, their unique adaptations differ by some of those habitats. So leatherback sea turtles, for example, are capable of making these massive dives to impressive depths, like 4,000 feet deep in the water, looking for things like squid and other food items. And that's pretty amazing to think about, to be able to sustain a dive when you're encountering atmospheric pressures that are as great as you would experience at 4,000 feet of depth. If you look at something like the desert tortoise, and many other species of tortoises, they can go months or years without taking a drink of water. And they're getting all of the liquid that they need, all of the water that they need from the food, from the plants that they're eating. So I think that's a pretty amazing adaptation. You see a huge variety of really interesting adaptations in various turtle species.
As survival pushed evolution along, turtles excelled in developing key skills to keep the species prominent. The ninja weaponry also evolved, becoming more stealth and dangerous over time.
Let's talk about a little bit about the Ninja Turtles and the different weapons that they have. One of the turtles has a sword, katanas. He has actually two swords. It's a little bit different than the actual Japanese katana sword. The katana is more of a long sword, more of a curve. The ninja sword is more of a straight sword, usually bladed on both ends, sharp on both ends. And in this case, the turtle uses two of them in the back behind him. One of the more common weapons is the bow staff used in one of the Ninja Turtles. Bow staff is considered the father of all martial arts weapons. It is a very effective weapon used. It's a long staff, usually about to the ear, about this high, and it's used quite a bit for hitting. It's a very powerful weapon, and it's very hard to defend against if someone knows it very well. The samurai were the only ones allowed to carry weapons, the swords, so the farmers had to create their own weapons, and one of the weapons they used was called a sai. Now, the sai was originally a planting tool for planting seeds, but later became a weapon that you could use for poking or stopping a blade as well.
Dude.
Nunchucks is one of our most unique style of martial art weapon. Many people think it's just Japanese weapon, but it's also from many of the different Asian countries. Japan, China, the Philippines, Korea all had the same type of weapon. The nunchaka was actually a long pole with a small stick on the end, and it was used for making wheat and rice, so they were pounding it. So when you see the old movies or the old pictures of someone pounding rice and wheat, it would be a nunchaka, and all they did was just taper it down and make it small weapons, and it became very popular.
While ninja artifacts and recreated weaponry can certainly be found in and amongst Manhattan, the turtle has also found a home in the Big Apple.
I think one of the most interesting and sort of realistic aspects of the Teenage Mutant Ninja story is that in the earliest incarnation, it was that these turtles were dropped into the sewer, were living in the sewer. And what's interesting about that is that in New York, there really aren't that many native turtles cruising around New York. But you go to New York City, and there are some turtles. There's actually a number of turtles hanging out in Central Park, the most common of which is the red-eared slider. This is the most common species in the pet trade. It's the most common species in the New York area. It's not native to New York. Red-eared sliders should not be in New York. Those were all released pets. So the idea that somebody, that some turtles got into the sewers of New York is actually not all that far-fetched, in the sense that lots of turtles have been dumped in urban ponds and urban waterways in New York as it already stands.
Please keep your arms and legs inside the shell at all times.
One of the biggest areas of turtle research that's really grown in the last, I'd say 25 years, is the conservation science. Trying to figure out what are the threats to these various species and what we can do to try to keep some of these species on the planet. It's certainly my hope that people can see the movie, they can get excited about turtles, but then they can sort of take those extra few steps and really learn a lot more about turtles and realize that there's this big conservation side that we should all be really passionate about as well.